Here we go. Not the smartest guys in the room. What do you say, Tom? Jim Aj. Jim Aj, you are coming right up today because I made a mistake last week, Tom, and I almost made a decision on what an audience member was going to say before they came up, and Jim called me out on it, and it was a good point. But I'm shot out of a cannon today on all things. My son is graduating. I'm getting ready to send a buddy who told me a few years ago she didn't love the one that I had sent her enough. And it was an opportunity for me at that time. And 'tis life, it just wasn't the right time, wasn't the right one for her. And now I'm getting ready to send another one back and saying, hey, give me another shot. And you might not give me another shot, but I'm going to say, hey, take this one, take a look at it and see what they have to say. So, Tom, what's going on today, man? I got all kinds of stuff, so I can go on and on and on. Go on.
Good morning, man. Good morning. How are you? So good to see you as always, Jim. Good to see you here. Yeah, you sound pumped up, Dom. You sound like you said you're shot out of a cannon. I know you like to say that, like that's your phrase for being excited, right? I've heard that from you a million times, mostly talking about other people. But yeah, cool to hear that you're shot out of a cannon today. I'm excited for you. When is the graduation?
Graduation is today. So tonight at 7:00. At 7:00. And Jimmy, Tom, and anybody watching on LinkedIn, I've done 1,000 things wrong over 18 years. And as a dad, I've done another 1,000 wrong as a businessman, a husband, right? But 1,000, so thousands of things I've done wrong. But today it is like, hey, to see your kid cross that and they made it there. Okay, one step complete, and who knows what will happen next, but you overcame one obstacle. So that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's an accomplishment, I think, for any parent, sort of, getting. I mean, I can only imagine. I'm years away from it myself, but for any parent, getting your kid to the point where they're sort of, doing, like you said, crossing that threshold, so to speak, and sort of completing their education, their basic education, right? Their high school education, getting that diploma. That's a big deal, and an accomplishment, I think, both for you as a parent, for you guys as parents, for you and Liz, but also, for Cam, right? I mean, it's a big accomplishment for him too. So, yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited for you guys, and tell Cam I said congratulations.
Will do. Hey, Amanda, what's up, Jimmy? Okay, so today, just so you know, one of the things we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to talk about movies or show, why you like that show, and how either a character, how you could use that in your storytelling. What is it about that person, story, character that you identify with? And maybe somebody else could use part of that in their storytelling. And so that's what we're going to break it down into. But I told you I had an apology to Jim Aj. Jimmy, last week we were talking about something, and I didn't know what Jimmy was going to say in the audience. And I said, no, Jimmy's going to talk about this, when maybe he wasn't. And he said to me, Dominick, that wasn't cool, because maybe I was going to tell you how handsome you look and how great your tan is. So, which probably he was going to say, and instead I thought he was going to say something else. So go on, Jimmy. What do you got for us today?
Well, nothing in particular today. I did see Cam yesterday cutting grass at the mall, and his tan is better than yours also. So Maddie might be the only one who has a shot of maybe you can beat her, but Cam's definitely better than yours as well. So I had to throw that in there for Tom. I know how much you like talking about this tan.
Amanda, Simon, if you watch a live stream, my tan is banging already. I'm like, I got 2 shades of base tan. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and here's a good one for you too as well, Tom. Last Saturday we were both invited to a mutual friend's son's graduation party, and I told Dom and his wife that we'd be there around 3:00, and Dom replied back, "I'll be there closer to 5." that's prime sunning hours. I need to sit by my pool. So he sold me out for 2 hours of tanning, and it actually rained that day, so he didn't even get to tan. So sometimes that's karma. You know what I mean?
I like it, Jim, coming out swinging with and hitting low because you know, we know how Dom feels about his tan. And I mean, hey, look, I get color in the summer too, but it's different because for two reasons. One, because I always wear sunblock. And two, because I'm out in the sun training. I'm not I literally, to me, laying next to a pool in the hot summer sun sounds like torture. Literally sounds like torture. Like I'm happy to like be in the pool, swimming around, maybe sitting at a table under an umbrella in between swimming around and like having a good conversation, maybe having a beer or two, or having a hot dog or a hamburger off the grill, like totally good, right? All of that sounds great. Just laying there, stewing in the heat sounds awful. It's the reason why like I don't understand like the whole like like people who are like call themselves beach people who just go to the beach and just lay in the sun. I'm like that's even worse. I'd rather do it by a pool because at least at a pool you're not getting sand in all kinds of places that you're going to find it later, right? Like that's like, so you go to the beach, you're getting sand in places that are uncomfortable, right? Like it sticks to everywhere, you find it everywhere, it gets in everything. And then on top of that, you're just sitting there sweating. Like, what are you doing? Like, you might as well just go waterboard yourself. It sounds awful. Awful. Don't understand it. Don't get it.
You're missing out. Anybody's invited over. And I did get 2 hours of good sun before I went to that party. So go on now. All right. This is not the smartest guys in the room. We are going to break down storytelling based on movies. Tom, we could do movies or shows, or we could just stick to movies today. What do you want to do here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we can talk about either, right? Because I think at the end of the day, storytelling is storytelling to some extent. You know, there are a lot of different mediums for telling stories, right? Often when you say a story, one of the first things that comes to mind for a lot of people is a book, right? When you say story, people think book, right? When you say storytelling, people think somebody reading a book out loud, right? Or like, you know, it conjures sort of images of like, you know, camp as a kid or like campouts as a kid and telling stories around the fire, or like those kinds of things, right? Whatever, you know, the equivalent of that is from your childhood or from your life. You know, those, that's kind of the imagery I think it conjures. But at the end of the day, like, storytelling is storytelling. And it really is just about the medium that you choose. But we were talking about right before we got on here, and I'll kind of start with this in terms of, you know, giving my 2 cents, or 10 cents, however you however you want to put it. But I had a really interesting conversation with some colleagues last night. Some folks that are that we're in sort of networking circles with, or I'm in networking circles with. One of them hosted a dinner at his house, and it was to help some other people who I hadn't met before, who he knew, kind of real world, do some real world testing on a sort of conversation building game that they're developing, this sort of card game that they're developing. And so the topic that we ended up landing on was about patterns. And so the conversation kind of went all over the place. We were kind of going in a bunch of like freewheeling different places. One little tidbit I'll share that I started the conversation with was if you notice, often things come in threes. Like, that's a very common thing in advertising, in marketing, in storytelling, right? Threes are a very common thing, right? And often people will hear it referred to as the rule of threes. And the reason for that is because we're really good at pattern recognition. Human beings are kind of often described as pattern recognition machines. And one of the things that we're exceptionally good at is recognizing patterns when they come in but they have to come in a minimum number, right? So one instance of something happening is happenstance, right? Two instances is a coincidence, right? But three instances starts to establish a pattern. And that's why you'll often find when people are trying to make a point, they'll give you evidence in in sort of 3 pieces of evidence to back up their point, right? And the reason for that is because 3 is the minimum number we need to begin to recognize a pattern forming. So just a little aside tidbit for everybody. But the thing we got into as it specifically relates to storytelling is one of the guys in the group was talking about how, and his wife was there at the table. She was nodding and smiling the whole time. It was pretty funny. But he was talking about how his family, his wife and his daughter, don't really enjoy watching television shows or movies with him a lot of the times because he's really good at predicting the outcome of the story before it happens. And he'll often just kind of like shout it out, right? So they'll be watching something together and he'll go, "Oh, that guy right there, that's the guy who did it," right? Or they'll be watching something and he'll go, "Oh, that character is going to die," right? Or, "Oh, that character you think might have done it, but actually they didn't, they're innocent," right? Whatever the case is, right? Whatever the story is. And he does that a lot, apparently. And it sort of drives his wife and his daughter a little bit nuts. And what I said to him was, I think the reason why you're doing that and why you're good at that and why you're able to do that is because you're recognizing a pattern in the stories, right? And then I gave them the example of the hero's journey, right? Which you guys have heard me talk about before, Dom. We've talked about it at length before in here, in other places, but the hero's journey is this sort of story archetype that most people who are in storytelling are familiar with, and people even who aren't. At its most basic form, essentially what it involves is a main character, a hero, so to speak, whose ordinary life is disrupted, right? They end up having to leave their ordinary circumstances to sort of go on a sort of a journey or a quest, right? In that journey or quest, they have to overcome obstacles that change them. And then at the end of the story, they come back to their life forever changed because of the sort of the struggles they had to overcome. And so I said, what's likely happening for this guy that was talking about how he can always predict or often predict what's going to happen in the story. I said, what's likely happening is you're recognizing the pattern and you're saying like, oh, well, when usually in a story arc like this one, in a murder mystery or a whodunit or whatever, usually these are the sequences of events and this is what happens. And they usually try to work in a misdirect at some point to make you think it's someone other than who it actually is. And there you go. Right. So I said to him, what you're really recognizing is patterns. And I think one of the things that reinforces for me about storytelling is that really good storytelling is actually a very disciplined practice. A lot of people think of storytelling as sort of this amorphous thing that just kind of happens, right? Like, oh, you tell a story, right? And there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. But actually, storytelling in and of itself is a very structured practice. And it's a skill that you can develop over time and get better at, just like any other skill, right? It is developable, which is a hard word to say, but it is developable. So that's my thoughts on storytelling. But we see these sort of common arcs and patterns, story structures in a lot of the things we watch. Like a couple of quick examples of the hero's journey: Star Wars, right? Goonies, right? The Princess Bride, right? Harry Potter, The Hobbit, right? These are all examples of stories that were constructed using the hero's journey. So yeah, just some quick things. It's all around you. You just got to pay attention and know what you're looking for. But I think it's interesting. It'd be interesting to hear from everybody, Dom, not just what they like, right? What stories or what films or what shows they like, but really to kind of dig in a little bit and push people to examine why they like them, to try to pull apart and start recognizing those storytelling techniques, those storytelling archetypes and those structures, and maybe some of the patterns that they're noticing in stories that they have an affinity for, that they tend to gravitate towards. What do you think?
I love it. And I think this will help with our own storytelling too. So if you start to break down these movies, shows, whatever, then you can realize, I like this, and in my story, I need to craft this a little more. So, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. I'll start with, as Tom was talking, I thought about the Truman Show and the hero's journey. And if you've ever seen Truman, he's being filmed, and then he realizes that maybe something's going on here, and then he has to the obstacles come. They try to keep him from leaving the island, from going to Fiji, and then it's almost in a reverse order, because he actually crosses the ocean at the end and walks up a wall and leaves the ordinary world that he's in and to go explore this other world. So it's like exactly beat per beat what Tom's saying here. And then I noticed going into this, even thinking about what we were going to talk about today, that maybe I'm a lover of coming of age stories, because I'm thinking of Goodfellas. They start off as kids from as far back as I remember. I always wanted to be a gangster, and it's as a kid. Then he grows, and then there's the problems of being a gangster. And then you go into the Bronx Tale, and he starts off in the Bronx Tale. He's a little kid watching his dad on the bus, and his dad tells him wasted talent is a bad thing. And so there's coming of age seems to be something that I'm always a fan of. So let's start. We'll go. So Jimmy, a story you love. We're going to go Jimmy first, and Amanda, Debbie, Jason. So a story you love, and what is it about that story that maybe is a common theme or something? Play along if you wish. If not, we'll go to Amanda. Go on, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's sort of similar, but I guess it's along the same line. But when I was in college, I had a class on popular culture, and we focused on TV shows. And that was one of the things, is you had to name a TV show and explain why it related to the average person and why it was so popular. And I chose, and I believe I even got an A on it. I chose to write about The Simpsons. And this is back 30 years ago, but Simpsons are still on today. So obviously it's popular. But it talked about the nuclear family and how, Homer's a working class guy who's trying to provide for his family. His kids mess up, he's dealing with problems at home. But the opening scene of The Simpsons, they're always running around doing a million things, but they end up on the couch together as a family. And that always stuck with me as, hey, the world might be crazy. You might be going through tons of stuff. Everyone has stuff they're going through. But if you can sit down and enjoy time with your family, that's really the crux of what The Simpsons are about, if you ask me. So maybe not on the lines you're looking for, but a show that I enjoyed and still do, still funny. And, when you look at it like that, maybe it's a little deeper than you realize.
Look at that, Jimmy. Okay, impressive stuff. Tom, what do you think about Jim's breakdown? He takes it back to college and The Simpsons.
I mean, I love taking it back to college and The Simpsons for sure. I apologize, I missed a little bit of that. I just got an email with some sad news, so you got to give me a minute. Why don't you jump to somebody else, Tom?
Okay, got you, Tom. Take care of yourself. That nuclear family thing, Jim, was that was impressive too. Just that it all comes back. It all comes back to family. So well said there. Let's continue on. That's good stuff. So we're breaking down storytelling right now. We're breaking down the story, favorite shows you like, were there patterns, so we can use them in our own storytelling. So Jimmy brings up the nuclear family. We all have families, that busy lives and everything like that. So how does family connect with other people? Very good. Amanda, what do you got for us? You want to play?
Hey, sure. And I don't know who brought up the Truman Show. I think it was Tom. I was talking about that. That was on last night, so we watched that. And one of the things I wanted to talk about too was a movie that's on usually every Memorial Day, and I watch it religiously every Memorial Day because it's my favorite movie of all time, which is Jaws. And one of the characters in that movie, which I really appreciate, is Quint. He's the fisherman on the boat, and they go on his boat and they go hunting for this shark, this beast. And Quint was throughout the majority of the movie. He's very, rigid, very mysterious, kind of like you didn't really know his story. You knew what he did, but you didn't know who he was. And he has that moment in the boat, after they're having dinner and they're comparing scars. And I believe one of the characters asked him, where did that scar come from? And he shares his story about, how he was in the war and they got stranded in the middle of the ocean. And there was, I believe they were trying to deliver a bomb, but if I'm sure most of us have seen that movie and that scene. And in that moment, he becomes that, sort of that silent hero, where you discover more about him. You realize what caused and created him to be who he was. And then, later in the movie, we see his demise, which was quite ironic given, the circumstances of what happened to him earlier on in life, that he explained in that scene. But I think, when you're sharing a story, it really gives you an appreciation of, sharing what makes you, like we all do a certain thing and we all bring what we do to the table, but being able to tell a story and tell it well. And I know that was my favorite scene in that movie because he just had you captivated. I, Anytime I watch it, that's that scene, no matter who I'm with. I mean, you can hear a pin drop in that moment because he just has everyone in the palm of his hands, and you gain an appreciation for him and you realize who he is. So, storytelling always opens up another door for people to gain a deeper understanding of who you are, aside from what it is that you do. And that's why I'll always love that movie.
Amanda, thank you. I'm feeling that just when you talk about it, the depth of character that they created there, and there's a backstory to this story and to the character, and all of a sudden you were thinking one thing about them, but they gave you the twist, and now you feel another way, and you are able to connect with them. So that's impressive. This is a good exercise, Tom. I'm learning my own storytelling from Jim and you and Amanda already is getting better. So, not the smartest guys in the room. This is the week after Memorial Day. We appreciate each of you being here. You could be 1,000 other places, probably 1,000,000 other places, but for some reason you chose here. Me and Tom appreciate it. This conversation is probably be pretty boring if it was just me and Tom going back and forth every week arguing over what I do that makes him mad and things that make me mad. So, Tom, what do you have to say about all that?
You mean you don't think it would be entertaining for us to spend an hour every week debating the merits of tanning?
Amanda, I saw you comment on tanning earlier. So for our LinkedIn community or whoever's not, LinkedIn can see us. So if you're on Clubhouse and you're not watching the live stream, you see I'm tan. So Amanda, your take on tanning, real quick. What do you got?
Well, you got me there. See, I'm a little in between. I agree with both of you. I like tanning, but I also like a place where you can't just sit in the sun like a raisin, and turn yourself into a raisin. You need to cool off. So, when it's a good beach day is when you have that nice cool breeze that can, cool you off so you're not sitting there scorching with beads of sweat, dripping down yourself.
Lovely. Well done. Okay. Tom, Dr. Tachi on YouTube. I'm trying to bring you up, Dr. Tachi. Dr. Tachi says you are indeed tan. Yeah. Uh-huh. Julie Loken comments that you should go to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. You should. So Julie Loken, thank you. So now let's get to Debbie. Debbie, we're back on storytelling. A movie, a show that you like that there's something in it that maybe we could use in our own storytelling. What do you got for us?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go on a little different diversion. My favorite movies are rom-coms. And I think it's, the classic boy loses girl, or boy gets girl, loses girl, and then gets girl back. And a lot of it is, some of it is very mindless, but it makes you laugh and takes you on a different journey, especially if you want to, whatever's going on in your own life, you're able to escape it and laugh and get involved with those characters to see how, they're going to navigate. The guy's going to navigate getting the girl back. So there's a little bit of romance in there, but for me, the comedy, I like to laugh. I think it's a good tool to release stress. So those are the type of movies I typically gravitate to. So hope that helps. And I'm on the fence. I don't. I'm a native Californian, so I believe in being outside and getting the sun, but not just sitting there baking. If I get the sun naturally as I'm out and about, walking the dog, doing my thing. So I'll land my plane.
Okay, Debbie, good stuff. And I too am a lover of rom-coms. So yeah, Jimmy, tell our friends that I love rom-coms, and I'm writing one with a buddy who is the least romantic person of all time. Like, and then so we'll sit at a coffee shop, and the guy will stand up sometimes when we're sitting at the coffee shop, and I'll be like, Justin, but they got it. Yeah, I said it too. They got to touch each other's hands. They have to hold hands. And then he'll be like, no, not yet, not yet. And then I'll be like, yeah, but there has to be romance. And he's like, you want romance? I'm going to give you romance. I'll give you so much romance you can eat it with a spoon. And we're at the coffee shop and he's yelling about romance. So I want to say, Debbie, to me, and Amanda, if you've seen it, everybody's seen it. Do you feel Pretty Woman is a rom-com? Because I feel Pretty Woman is the perfect rom-com. I love it. It's perfect. And I think it's almost a perfect movie. Hero's journey, multiple characters, storylines. I am all in on it. So go on, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Pretty Woman qualifies as a rom-com. I actually like a well done rom-com too. I think it's a genre that tends to, I mean, just like any other genre, like there are good versions and bad versions, right? There are better examples and worse examples, but like, hey, a good story is a good story. And if it happens to be a romantic comedy and it makes you laugh and there's, people find, happiness at the end of the film, like, it leaves you happy and laughing and like feeling good about the world. Like, why wouldn't you like that? Right. So yeah, I like a good rom-com too. I mean, I think it's a good trope, right? It's just, I think sometimes people get a little heavy-handed with the rom and don't find a good balance between the rom and the com. I think there has to be a good balance there for it to be sort of engaging and keep you along for the ride. If it goes too heavily in one direction or the other, I think you have a chance of losing a good chunk of the audience. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I like a good rom-com, and I agree with you. I think Pretty Woman counts, and I think it's a well done one because there's good balance, right, between the sort of the ups and the downs, the struggle, the trials of figuring out, what that relationship could be, what it can't be, how it could work, how it wouldn't work, whether they can or can't, will they, won't they, right? Which is a common part of the rom-com sort of story structure. Will they, won't they is always in there. So yeah, I think it's good. I like it. And did you know the scene where he snaps the necklace, the box that has the necklace in it, where he snaps it at her hand or on her hand, that was actually improvised. They were playing around. That wasn't in the script. He did that. And Julia Roberts' reaction was so genuine and engaging that they decided to keep it in the film because it was a very sort of endearing moment, showing them sort of being playful with each other in a way that actually hadn't originally been scripted, but it worked really well in the finished film. So yeah, just a little tidbit there for you.
Love it. I think there's a show on that Netflix, How Movies Are Made. And I think Pretty Woman might be one of those. And I think they discussed it. Yeah, but love it. Hey, so I'm going to throw one out to you just here, just sidebar. And, like Yvonne says, I digress at time. Oh, she just left. I digressed about Dan. Now, hey, I think Coming to America with Eddie Murphy is a rom-com. What do you think?
I mean, I think I think it's a comedy first with a romantic storyline, right?
Okay.
So there's definitely a romantic storyline used as sort of a story trope to help kind of bring the audience along. But I would say it's a comedy first, right? The comedy is really the sort of the main focus of that film, and the romantic storyline is secondary to the comedy, I think. So I think it is a rom-com, but uh uh but it's not a traditional I mean it's a rom-com in the sense that it has both of those characteristics or both of those features, but I definitely think it's comedy first for sure.
It's interesting, Tom. You mentioned earlier about the balance of these, of like a rom com or something like that. If you go too far one way, is it not? So we're talking storytelling here. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're breaking down your favorite stories. So, and then how could we use them? Is it coming of age? Is it crossing the bridge? Is it like Stand by Me? Something I love, Stand by Me, and I start to realize that they start off as kids in childhood, and there's this fulfillment and uh, growth of who I'm going to be at some point, and going through this evolution as a person. So, hey, Jason, what do you got for us? A favorite story that you watch and that we can use for our storytelling? What do you got, my man? And I like the new picture. Got to say, it's cool. It's a cool vibe. You're looking good there, man. Go on, Jason. You were off. You're off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what something's up with Clubhouse. I like movies, but there's a book that really just it has a great story because it transforms mindset sequence after sequence, and I'm gonna have to refer to The Alchemist because it goes from a young man who has these grandeur ideas of connection and having something for him, and he gets in a lot of mishaps, but it's like great little stages of life, like from working for the guy that's selling crystals to traveling in the middle of the desert, being trapped and being told, hey, I heard you're a magician, turn into the wind or escape, like your greatest journey. And what helps me is when you leave enough mystery and clues in a story that moves the reader, watcher, or listener along to where you can't over anticipate what is going to take place. I think that's mysticism. And it's one thing, like in movies, that I don't like the predictability. I like being surprised. So that's why I don't like to watch movie trailers, because a lot of times movie trailers ruin the whole movie. Like they show all the best sequences before you even saw the movie, and you're like, okay, well, what's left? So I think the quintessential to storytelling is giving a hint to the listener, the viewer, or the reader, just enough to spark curiosity, to walk down that tunnel, to walk down this path. You don't know what's coming, and stimulate the senses and your mindset. So that's what I'll leave off with.
Good stuff, my man. Appreciate you. And I'm Tom. I love The Alchemist. I was just riding bikes with my dad the other day, and he said I might still go. He's 82, and he said I might go see the pyramids. I'm like, you should. The Alchemist did. So, okay, you talk, Tom. I'm gonna fix my camera. Somehow I went into like a time warp of original camera here. So I've entered like that. I look like that old school handheld camera. Go on.
You do. You look like you have like a VHS filter on your camera or something. And I don't know. I'm going to apologize in advance. You guys might have to listen to me for a minute here because God knows how long it's going to take Dom to figure out technology. It's not his friend, in case you guys didn't know that. But anyway, yeah, no, I I'm with you. I was sitting here and listening to Jason, and all of a sudden your camera started blinking. It flashed a couple of times, and then it turned off. And then when it came back on, you were looking like you were straight out of 1983. And I was like, I know you were talking about Stand By Me, but I didn't know you were gonna, do a little dramatic reenactment with a VHS camera. Oh, there we go. There's Dom.
What a
HD.
jerk, man. You had that material ready to go. What?
I did not. That was all improvised. What are you talking about? That was off the top of my head. Come on. But yeah, there you are. There you are. Dom in HD with his air quotes base tan going on. And that Dr. Tachi was giving him credit for props for on
Thank
YouTube.
you, Dr. Tachi. Thank you.
Quick to call out. I think that was the first comment you mentioned today, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which, let's read these notes on the comments here. So Yvonne laughed, but she said Harry met Sally. I've never seen that one before. No show. That's what I would say. This is says the best story is the one you wake up to. Fly TY said good morning. Amanda and Jason, they're back and forth, said, hey, what's up? Amanda said she watched Truman last night. I just watched it the other day. I started watching it at like midnight and just kept watching. I had to. So Dr. Tachi, we're to our friend Dr. Tachi, a great storyteller. Dr. Tachi, we're talking about movies, shows, even books with a great story and what we can learn from them and what you might suggest for us. What do you got?
There's so many that I like. Good morning, first of all, everyone. My favorite genre of film is like action adventure. And so I am very into the whole Jason Bourne series of movies. Those are like some of my absolute favorites, particularly the first one, The Bourne Identity. And I think the thing there is that there's a struggle, right? That you are bred, in quotes, to be inhuman in the way you behave because you're an assassin, but the humanity always manages to show through. There's some level of humanity, and I guess what we can learn there is, despite what we think and despite what we see, that most people have some level of humanity about them. Most level, you were talking about romance, and that's not something that you can allow yourself to indulge in if you're somebody like Jason Bourne, obviously, this was all based off of a series of books, I believe. So if you're somebody like Jason Bourne, you can't afford to fall in love. You can't afford to do that. But later on, he does allow himself to do that because he's human, because he has humanity. So despite the fact that you may be bred to be a machine, there's some humanity inside. So that's what I particularly like about that series of films.
Dr. Tachi, good breakdown. That reminds me, too bad our friend Johnny isn't here today because John Pica. I love John Wick, and same kind of thing there, Dr. Tachi, the humanity. He has his own set of rules and things like that. Love myself. But in a lot of ways, it's ridiculous, and he's running around shooting people and things like that. So back to you, Dr. Tachi. What do you think about the character, the anti-hero, in a lot of, so there's the anti-hero has their own set of a moral compass, like what's the guy's name in Yellowstone that everybody loves, that he has, where he'll save somebody and he'll murder somebody. So what do you think about the anti-hero?
I think it's complex, just like humans are complex. I'll go back to that. That's not something I would do, but when you break things down, you see a reason for why and how the anti-hero behaves. So it's not necessarily logical to me. It may not be logical to you, but in that person's mind, that's their reality, and it's logical to them. So I have no problem with the anti-hero as a character because it exists in real life. And if we're looking at stories, and not everything is reflective of real life, but at some point, to be honest, every story does have some elements of what's real. So I have no problem with it.
All right. Anybody want to blurt out best anti-heroes? Well, what is that guy's name from Yellowstone? That Rip. Yeah, that's it. Who else got a good anti-hero?
I haven't actually watched Yellowstone yet, but it's on my list of series to watch. So I'm getting there.
Dr. Touchy's clapping. Julie clapped. Go,
How
Julie.
about Scarlett O'Hara?
Scarlett O'Hara. I don't even know from.
OMG.
From Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You love to hate her. You love to hate her.
And really, if we go back to Gone with the Wind, it's a perfect film. But and people do love to hate her. Interesting. Okay, go, Tom. Do you want to add something there?
Well, I mean, I think there's, I think, well, so like from popular culture, right? Like maybe an anti-hero is, from Game of Thrones, right? From sort of relatively recent history and probably one of the biggest TV series, ever made. But Daenerys, right? The Dragon Queen is for sure an anti-hero, right? She kills when she deems it necessary or moral based on her moral compass, but not necessarily the shared moral compass of other people. Yeah, I mean, it was a classic anti-hero story for sure. She was the anti-hero, and then Jon Snow was the sort of more classic hero. But as with any hero, they struggle with morality at some point during the journey. But yeah, Jon Snow was sort of the classic hero in that series, and Daenerys was the anti-hero.
Yeah, good stuff. And almost in, like Dr. Chachi mentioned, Jason Bourne. I mean, he's the lead character, but he is killing people, but he's likable because there's this human element to him. He makes decisions. He saves people. Same with the John Wick. John Wick murdered hundreds and hundreds of people, but it all starts because his wife was sick. Somebody murdered his dog. There is he has me and Tom are working on something we'll tell you about someday, but a character that we have has his own moral code, right? And he'll make decisions based on whatever his code is. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. Julie Loken, movie story that you love, character, and how we could use it in our storytelling. Who do you got?
This is a very hard question because there's so many, but I think I like the underdogs. I like the underdogs that show that raw, vulnerable, like gritty, not pretty side. And for me to come up with one person, I'm just trying to think. The last movie I saw in an actual movie theater would be The Color Purple, which I think exudes just the raw, gritty, ugly side, but you are championing for this person, even with all their flaws, mistakes, and also their hard road to get to where they are. Thank you, Amanda, Yo, and Jolanta. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. The underdog story, perfect example. All right, let's go. Like Rocky, the great. It was even in. I think what do they call that? The first line. What is that line they have, Tom? Log line. I think the log line is it was 1,000,000 to 1 shot or something like that. And right off the bat, ultimate underdog. We identify everybody's been down and out, fired from the job. So well done. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, before we get to Jolanta, should we do show and tell? What do you think? Okay, Tom says yes for show and tell. Billy, we're talking
Absolutely,
movie.
it is that time. It is that time.
Okay, I am sentimental today because my son is graduating from high school today. Yeah. So, all right, I did something right. So here we go. So today I found this, and Tom's about to have a little baby soon too. So here it is, a baseball from the day my son was born. It says it's a boy. It says he was born at 8:49. I think my wife pushed for a long time. 9 pounds, 3 ounces. I think that's pretty big. 21 inches. and the date, everything like that. His name's Cameron. It's a boy. So, so this little keepsake makes me happy, and I'm sharing it today because it is a big day. It's all about him today. So that's what I got, Tom.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, it's like I said before, I think it's, definitely something to be excited about, something to be happy about. It's definitely an accomplishment for you and Liz and for Cam. So congratulations all around. And yeah, he's a graduate.
There you go. It's a boy. He's a graduate. Well, we did it. He did it. So yeah, and we'll see what's next for him. I'm hopeful. I'm a big believer in hope and what's next, and that's what I guess I'm just hopeful for wherever he goes that it all works out and big things happen for him. So Jolanta, the time is yours. Are you ready for this? Now, a movie that you like, character, what is it about it? How could we use that in our storytelling? What do you got for us?
Hey, Dominic. Good morning, everybody. For me, I was just thinking about The Dark Knight for Batman. That's always my default movie to go to because I think the Joker plays a really good story with Batman, and he really opens him up to seeing the things that are light, the things that are dark, and the things that are in between. And I think Heath Ledger's performance in that film is just incredible. And it's almost like no matter how many times they try to remake the Joker or Batman, I still go back to The Dark Knight because there's a lot of scenery that plays in, and then the drama of the movie itself. And you get to learn who the Joker really is through this film. And so you want to like him, but you want to hate him at the same time. So he is the anti hero in this, even though there are people that are probably going to say, well, Batman might be the anti hero because he ends up saving, Gotham. But no, the Joker wins in this one because he's setting off a lot of different things. So if you haven't seen The Dark Knight, I highly recommend. It's a really deep, deep movie, and it can be scary in some parts too. But yeah, I absolutely love. There's more that I could talk about with The Dark Knight, but I know you're wrapping up the room soon. So if you haven't seen that story yet, or if you're looking for a good, well written Christopher Nolan film, that's a really good one to me. That's a good one to watch if you haven't seen it. I turn it back over to you, Dominic.
Thanks, Jolanta. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I really like the film. I love the film. I would probably beg to differ slightly. Personally, I would say that I think the Joker is sort of a classic villain archetype. But I think what they did that was really clever and done really well in that film is they made him somewhat of a sympathetic character, right? So they painted the picture that he was, and this was sort of done in the comics as well, that he's a bit of a victim of his circumstances. And so you kind of like, it's not 100% his fault, but he is responsible for, the actions that he undertakes, in the moment. Right. So like you sort of feel bad for him that he's had, that he had the troubled life that he had when he tells the story of, being abused as a child by his father. Right. Like that, kind of builds sympathy, but at the same time too, he's obviously, responsible for what he does. But I would say too that like along those same lines, Batman is, across the films and more broadly speaking as a character in the sort of DC universe, he is sort of a classic anti-hero, right? He has his own moral compass, right? He doesn't follow the letter of the law. He operates outside the law. And he does that very much to to pursue his own sort of personal vendetta against the criminal element in Gotham. So he is sort of the classic anti-hero that he fulfills, kind of ticks a bunch of those boxes. And again is definitely sort of a dark brooding character. But I think great call out Jolanta, and it definitely a great film for sure. One that's worth rewatching if you've seen it, rewatch it. If you haven't seen it, what the hell are you waiting for? I don't know what to say. So what do you think, Dom?
Love it. And my son was just giving me like all-time movie ratings like 2 days ago, and that film rates like super high up there. And some people would be like, oh, that's an action hero movie or whatever. No, it's a lot more than that. And I'm a big fan of the other Joker with Joaquin Phoenix too. And then they really make you feel sympathetic for him. But that movie is masterful because rather than going, it's a superhero movie, but rather than going with all these explosions and everything like that, it's the brilliance of the simplicity of him painting his face and looking in the mirror and dancing down the steps. So when we talk about writing and storytelling, the detail of him, I'm on camera here. So when he looks in the mirror and he makes these poses and these dances, well, they could have spent millions of more dollars, but no, they just kept it clean, kept it pure. Let's just a man in his problems, man in the world kicking him down, man and little kids taking his sign and people making fun of him. Yeah, we have all been there. So, all right, Mary Lynn, we are talking stories, movies that you love, stories that you love. And before Tom does his wrap up here, we're going to give Mary Lynn a shot. So today we talked about rom-coms. We talked about movies. We even talked about the book, The Alchemist. So Mary Lynn, is there a movie that you love that we can learn some storytelling from? What do you got for us?
Oh, my all-time favorite movie ever is Shawshank Redemption. And I just think the way they tell the story in that movie, and the twist that you don't see coming, and it doesn't have to be action-packed to be suspenseful. Like, it doesn't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movie to be suspenseful and action-packed. There's something, even though, people make fun of how Morgan Freeman talks so slow and he could narrate your life, and I'm not doing it right, but just the lower kind of slower cadence. That is just as suspenseful and action-packed. I think it's just such an art. That movie is just an amazing piece of art.
Mary Lynn, I am with you. I was almost going to go there today with that to start off because I could watch it every time it's on. I really think it's perfect from Brooks to Red to Andy Dufresne. I love them all. One day in this room for show and tell, I actually showed a postcard that my sister had got me from Say What Teneo. So love it. So thank you for sharing. All right, not the smartest guys in the room. We're cruising. What a room today. You all kicked some butt and let us ride your coattails. Tom, take us home with a wrap up. What do you have for us today, my man?
Well, we covered a lot of ground today, Dom. We talked about all kinds of things. We talked about really where we started out was with talking about trying to identify not just the stories that we like, but why we like them, right? And I think that's an important thing to do that a lot of people don't do or don't often do. We talk about storytelling is a skill. And I said at the very beginning, it's a developable skill, right? And what I mean by that is just like anything else, as a baseline, some people are going to be a little bit better at it than others, right? As a baseline skill, you want to make an analogy to sports, right? Like basketball, which is probably something that most everybody listening at some point has shot a basketball, whether it was just in middle school gym class or on the playground or in the neighborhood or whatever, right? Most people have shot a basketball at some point in their lives. And, just based on sort of natural or built-in ability, some people are a little bit better at it than others. Some people have a propensity to have slightly better hand-eye coordination, right? Some people have a propensity to have better spatial awareness. Some people are better at understanding innately the physics and forces exerted on the ball after you throw it to shoot it, and they're better. They get more shots in, right? They drain more shots than other people. So not everybody starts at the same baseline, right? But if you practice and you put in the time and the work and the effort, you can become a good storyteller. You can develop that skill, just as you can become a better basketball player or a better skier or a better cyclist or whatever your athletic pursuit of choice is, right? We know all of these things take practice and time and effort and consistency to become better at, right? And storytelling is no different. So I would love for everybody who is here with us today, everybody listening, to continue trying to do this exercise. When you find yourself really enjoying a series or a film, whether it's it's a mini series or an ongoing television series or whatever the case may be, or a film franchise, when you find yourself really enjoying them, I want you to just take a minute and try to peel back, rather than saying, man, that's a good film. Ask yourself why. Why was it so good? What were the things, the individual components that really spoke to me, right? And by doing that, you'll start to peel back the layers of the stories that you enjoy, and you'll start to see patterns, right? You'll start to see commonalities between the stories that you gravitate to, between the films that you enjoy. And you'll be able to utilize those patterns just by recognizing them, just by putting in the effort and the time to understand them better. You'll be able to start using them in the stories that you tell. And I believe that if you do this over time, if you sort of approach story with a more critical eye, right, and take a few moments to really dig into stories and why you like them and what it is about them that you like, you'll also find that when you are invariably in a situation where you are telling a story, your story will be better received. You'll become a better storyteller because you took the time to understand story. Storytelling is a very deliberative process. It is a structured process. It's one that should be done with purpose. And all of those things require practice over time, right? And practice makes what? Improvement, right? One of the favorite sayings we have, we've been talking about that one in here for years. Practice makes improvement. So every time you're watching a film or a series that you enjoy, put a little practice in, practice your storytelling, analyze the story, and apply the lessons you learn there to the stories that you tell. And I think you'll see an improvement over time. Thanks so much for being here with us. I appreciate all of you guys. Dom appreciates all of you guys. We're very, very grateful that you're a part of this community and you join us here every Wednesday. We couldn't do this and wouldn't do this without all of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you from both Dom and myself. We are not the smartest guys in the room. And until next Wednesday, we wish you guys a great week. And wow, I just fell all over the place on that one. Let's try that again. Until next Wednesday, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We wish you all the best. We love you guys, and we'll see you soon. See you next Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Here are Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Bye-bye now. We'll see ya. Love ya. Bye.